Hey everybody, today we're reviewing my round 3 stream match at the Pittsburgh 18K Showdown. For those who are unaware, the Showdown series is a tournament series that is sanctioned by Riot Games. Um, and the top two placing players will get an invite to the regional championship. The tournament had around, I believe, close to 350 players, and I managed to get 29th. So I managed to cash out, but did not end up getting my invite. A bit of a background on me. This is my first event as a sponsored player, so I want to give a big shout out to Crit Apparel for making this trip possible. Quick shout out to my teammates Ben and Troy. They also managed to top the event. Unfortunately, our fourth teammate Nate couldn't make it. But yeah. So before I start with the actual replay, I will begin by giving a quick background on the different decks that are being displayed. My opponent played Lillia, which is a very aggressive token-based strategy. Lillia very much tries to double conquer every turn with their temporary strike tokens and end the game really fast. My deck, Leblanc, is very much the opposite, with the exception of a certain battlefield, as you'll see later on. My deck is a bit slower. It aims to generate advantage through getting more resources, through having more runes, card advantage, and also generating a lot of might through making copies of my high might units. So, yeah. A bit more background on my opponent. My opponent is GhaelWinds. He's best known for being the best of Yasuo in Houston, and he also was the best of Vancouver Lillia. So he's a two-time best of winner, so a very experienced player. He's been playing the game since before the game even came out. I was actually matched up against him in Houston, where I was on Kaisa, and he was on, as I mentioned earlier, Yasuo, and he beat me. So this is a revenge, bit of a rematch I've been waiting for. So yeah. Yeah, so we can start with the gameplay. I have the audio muted for the stream. I'll have a link in the description below for if you want to watch the replay with the stream commentary. But here I'll be providing my own. So yeah, here we go. Game one. We start off. I win the die roll, so I get to go first and start from mulligan. I take a while to decide, but as you see here, I end up missing my starting turn play, so I channel 2 runes, draw for turn. I do not see a turn 1 play, which is not ideal for a slower deck like mine. And yeah, so I end up just passing turn almost instantly. He'll start off by playing Lillia. I ended up seeing my 2 drop this turn, Soaring Scout, and I do a deliberation on whether or not I want to play that or my chosen champ Leblanc. And I believe because I have Vi in my hand, normally I would play the Leblanc because I would need to. His likely play next turn is to push the Lily into the battlefield, and I would want Leblanc to contest the Lillia. Leblanc has Assault, and so she'll go to 4 might, and we'll be able to get over Lillia. Obviously, he'll have some cards in hand that he could use, like some pop spells in hand, like Discipline or On Guard to get over it. So it's not guaranteed, but without forcing any cards, LeBlanc does beat it. However, I do have Vi in hand, which tip is very strong. Vi has Ambush and can help me push over basically any battlefield. And even if it doesn't win, because Vi stuns the unit, my units will stay alive, so I can just do it again next turn. So that's why I opted for going for the Soaring Scout play. Another reason why I went for Soaring Scout over LeBlanc is that I didn't want to pay the power cost on LeBlanc. Having a lot of runes is very important in the LeBlanc deck because your very strong plays typically cost a lot of runes, which is why you play the Soaring Scout to generate a lot of runes. And especially since I missed my first turn play, I couldn't afford to burn a rune that early in the game, because if I played LeBlanc and then I pushed in with LeBlanc and then he plays a pump spell, I had to play the Vi immediately, and then I burned two rune 2 turns in a row, and he'd be up on runes against me, which is not ideal. So that's why I went for the Soaring Scout, because with the intention of pushing my Soaring Scout and then Vi into the battlefield the very next turn. Yeah, yeah, there's that from him. He ends up, yeah, so Lillia, whenever she moves, she creates a sprite token where she was previously located. So, and that synergizes with her legend ability, which allows her to create a sprite token with its cost reduced by each temporary card it has, which would be one. It also helps when you like want to, after you've scored with Lillia, you can move her back to base and then leave a temporary token there for your opponent to deal with while keeping your Lillia safe in base. He opts into not playing any pump spells because he knows that it will, like, the Vi will just attack again next turn, so there's not really a point. So yeah, I ended up doing getting the conquering the battlefield on Star Spring, and then triggering the legend ability to discard a card to make a copy of a card I currently control. I did watch this replay before, so I did listen to the commentators. The commentators mentioned, something about Star Spring being something back with one only rune left. I can't do that because I've already played Vi to the battlefield, so that already counts as my first unit played, so I cannot start spring anything, even if I had more than one rune up. And he also disagreed with my Karthus discard, but in my hand I have two mixologists. I think I have some mixologists. Yeah, two mixologists. So I don't really want to play Karthus by itself because it's very low tempo without like a way to trigger other death knells. So in this case, you often want, especially if you have Mixologist in hand, you often want to discard your Karthus so you have a good card to bring back off of Karthus after they kill your Mixologist, or your temporary copy of the Mixologist dies. So the thought process behind that. And then yeah, he starts off his turn by playing a Sprite Fountain, which generates a Sprite token, and then when it dies the next turn, it will generate another one. He then plays a Brutalizer, which is an equipment that gives +3 when the turn you equip it, and he equips it to the Sprite Fountain, which allows him to push for 5 might, or no, 6 might, sorry. And that allows him to clear my battlefield, leaving just the Reflection token. I get a Channel our Rune, but yeah. Overall, with this turn, I'm pretty happy because he isn't able to double conquer. So he's a bit behind. His goal really very much wants to score 2 points every turn, and he only got 1. So I'm okay with this, but I have no units on the battlefield, so I spend this turn developing. So I'm counting my runes here. I think I just end up playing a Mixologist and a Baited Hook. And passing turn, it's just a development turn because I want to next turn ideally push my Mixologist into the battlefield, make a copy, and then hook it to make to get more value, get the Karthus back, and start clawing my way back into the game. And if I played LeBlanc here, I wouldn't be able to develop this, both this and the hook, because I wouldn't have enough runes. And because I have exactly 8 runes this turn, I can play both. 8 runes is a good number to be at, especially in the LeBlanc deck. You can play cards like Thousand-Tailed Watcher, Accelerated, and especially the best card in the deck is Rift Herald into non-purple. Like, if you can get an early Rift Herald onto the board and they're not playing purple, a purple deck is often very hard for your opponent to beat it. They have to rely on you having bad, like not very good cards to play out of your hand, and it just generates too much value advantage on its own. So yeah, getting to 8 runes is like, it's kind of like getting to 9 runes in a Dazzling Aurora deck. It's just a sweet spot for your power plays. He ends up double conquering this turn, going up to 4 points. So he's 2 turns away from winning. So you have to keep that in mind when you're playing against a fast aggressive deck. Every turn matters. As long as I can prevent him from getting the 8th point, it doesn't matter how far ahead he is. Yeah, so this turn, I think I'm just going to push in for my Vixologist into the Star Spring. Oh wait, no, sorry, I misremember. I think yeah. So I believe I play a Thousand-Tailed Watcher with my 9 runes because that gives me exactly enough to both accelerate Thousand-Tailed Watcher. Ideally, I would have Vi here, so I don't have to use as many runes. But Thousand-Tailed Watcher is the next best option to guarantee I can get a break to kill his sprite because right now he has a Master's Drift on the board. And he has his sprites are 4 might, and while I do naturally get over that, he has 4 runes up, so any single pump spell like a discipline or a on guard would immediately get kill my mixologist, resulting in me losing everything. So I need to play the Watcher beforehand to make sure I can conquer the battlefield and to force out some stuff. I always want to go to Star Spring here because Star Spring, um, if I Mixologist does get to survive, I do get to conquer the other battlefield with my hook, the card I hook off of the copy. But here he ends up playing a discipline, which pushes his sprite up to 6 might. And then he ends up doing a stupefy on the mixologist. Um, yeah, he just I believe he did this just to draw cards because those cards cycle. Otherwise, if he wanted to kill the Watcher, he could have with that, but uh, me having a copy of Watcher is in this scenario a little less valuable than having a copy of Mixologist. So now I will. I conquered the battlefield, so now I will trigger LeBlanc's Legend ability and discard another card to make a copy of the Watcher. So I have a 7 unit, and then I will basically immediately hook it away. Baited Hook says that if I can basically kill it, pay yellow and a energy to kill it, and then look at the top 5 cards of my deck, and then I can play a card that has 1 might higher than the card I killed, and I can just play it for free. So 7 might unit lets me hit every single unit in my deck. So the best hit here would likely be Rift Herald. A close second is Ruin Rex, which is what I end up getting, but a Rift Herald would have been by far the best hit because that card will generate too much advantage. But Ruin Rex is also a pretty good secondary hit. So up until now, I think I've made every single possible accurate decision. And I take a while to think on this turn, and my thought process was that he had no cards. Um, I wanted him to force out. I wanted to play the rest of the battlefield to force him to commit a lot of cards to deal with my board. But in hindsight, what I could have done here, I think still playing the Ruin Rex to the Star Spring wasn't necessarily a bad play. But if I wanted to do that, I had to use the Star Spring trigger to push the Watcher back because I need something to contest the battlefield the next turn. And because he has both Brutalizer and Master Foresight, there are a lot of combinations of cards that can actually break the 13 might I have on the battlefield pretty easily. If he has Sprite Burst or like Sprite Fountain, any of those cards, he just equips Brutalizer to one of them, and then that one, each Sprite would attack for 6, and then he just has to have one pump spell and instantly breaks my battlefield. Um, so that would leave me very behind in like, Rune Economy. But in my head, I was thinking like if he had to do that, then he gets like if he had Sprite Fountain, I thought it was okay. But because he had Sprite Burst, it allows him to get 3 tokens. So it allows him to not only um, score on both battlefields, I believe. He gets to pay his last one cheaper and also gets to maybe play a pump spell. So it ends up being a lot the worst case scenario. So he gets to score there, pushing himself to 5, and he also gets to clear my battlefield with both those because they both go to 6. Oh yeah, he ends up charming my Karthus to get rid of it, so he doesn't. So I don't get a double Ruin Rex trigger, because that would all blow him out. But yeah, so yeah, I pushes for 6. He kills. Oh, it's 7 because of the Master Restrict. Master Restrict was 7, so that would have been 14 my immediately. So that immediately kills both my units, which I just didn't do the proper math. Yeah, I am just killing the sprite on the other battlefield because he had 4 from the Master Restrict trigger, but it doesn't actually make a difference. I guess it does. It doesn't really matter in this scenario. Yeah, it doesn't really matter. But yeah. So now I have no cards. He's at 6 points, and I'm low on runes, so I'm just behind him. If I got to keep one of my Ruin Rexes and or the Watcher, I would be in a much better spot. So yeah. Also, next turn, if he has another Sprite Burst or like a Sprite Fountain, he wins the game on the spot. So because I can't get to a battlefield unless I top deck exactly Watcher. And yeah, and I believe I go to 8 runes this turn. Here we get a bit of a game pause because Ghael had miscounted his runes. Basically, he counted his runes in his that are like in the rune deck, and he said that he had 8 runes basically. When as you can see on his board, he had 9 after making that play. What ended up happening was uh, it was not malicious, but he ended up having 13 runes in his rune deck, and the 13th rune wasn't even ever accessed. And if you noticed throughout the course of the game, this is what the very long judge call was about. Basically, he has one of every different type of foil rune, so that was what his intention was, and he accidentally put in a duplicate of another rune. And after a very long judge call, we were able to get that sorted out. But it wasn't a malicious attempt of cheating my opponent. But yeah, yeah, after we got it sorted out, it was all good. So we just moved on. So that's why we had a bit of a break. So I'll skip to the when we start resuming play. Should be around here. Yes, this is what we're resuming play. That we finished up the judge call. So yeah, so that'd be my turn. I have 2 mixologists in hand. I don't really have much to do, so I decided I think I have like 2 mixologists and 2 hooks in my hand, which is why I'm shaking my head because it's like it's just all duplicates, or maybe it's just 2 hooks in hand. Yeah. So I just play mixologist and a hook. The only option I could do is play Leblanc. That would allow me to contest both battlefields, but my thought process was because I didn't have another card in hand, I needed a way to kind of trigger Star Spring to get to both battlefields, and without having to kill my mixologist. So the only way, so that's why, because I have exactly 2 hook in hand, I decided against playing LeBlanc. If I had another unit in hand, like another low cost unit in hand, I would have considered playing the LeBlanc instead of the second hook, because I'm not likely to activate both hooks. So if he has a Sprite Fountain, he instantly wins the game here, or Sprite Burst also instantly wins the game here because I'm tapped out. But I think he just takes his turn to develop all his cards. Yeah, because I see his hand. He has a bunch of interaction now post stream, so he doesn't have Sprite Burst or Sprite Fountain. Otherwise, he would have slammed those down immediately. And what I ended up having, yeah, I think he ends up playing, yeah. Oh, so he ends up stupefying my mixologist to draw a card because I guess he's looking for the win here. And I ended up being pretty glad that I played the hook instead of the LeBlanc because I believe he draws into Disarming Rake, which allows him to kill one of my hooks. If I only had one hook, the game would be over on the spot. Or I had a third hook in hand, so it wasn't as bad, but it wouldn't be as good. Because I wouldn't have 2 hooks basically, because I have a third hook in hand. So he ends up just developing a bunch of units, and yeah, he's completely. I believe he's tapped out, or he has 1 rune up. And there is a very because I'm playing LeBlanc. There's a line that kind of instantly wins me the game here with with the cards I hit off of hook. So I'm going to push the mixologist. He's nothing up, right? So I'm going to push the mixologist into the Star Spring, and then move the LeBlanc on the Star Spring, push the fake, make a copy, get rid of move the clone into the other battlefield, which is seat of power, draw a card, and then I'm gonna hook the fake, what's it called, fake mixologist. And if that card specifically hits a Rune Rex, I would bring a card that's back with my mixologist, and then I would use my second hook in hand to do the Rune Rex, to hook the Rune Rex, and then I would instantly be able to. I'm discarding the mirror image of for turn to wipe his board because I would kill 2 of his units, and then also I would hit, like, if I could hit the hardest dragon off the last card, I would have killed his last unit, and then he'd be in a very tough spot because he'd be dealing with my board of all this might. Unfortunately, that doesn't end up happening. Spoilers. I think I hit him in the wrong order with the hooks. Yes, I hooked the first reflection token. I see a harness dragon off this as one. I already used 1 Rune Rex, so it's not super high. Yeah, but I see a harness dragon there. And I opt to take a mixologist because I just wanted more might. Because harness dragon just 1 unit, I thought just didn't do much because he has ways to generate another unit, and then like he also has the legend ability, which gives him a free sprite fountain. So unless I can kill all of his units, or at least 2 of them, I felt like just harness dragging 1 unit wasn't worth it because of all the might he had from Brutalizer and Massive Foresight. Along with I think he has a reasonable lot of cards in hand because of Sea of Power this game. So skip a bit ahead. Yeah, playing the Mixologist to that battlefield and bringing back the Karthus. He's looking at my grave so that because I have a lot of cards that I can bring back with Mixologist, so yeah. So yeah, I ended up playing the second hook. I ended up not seeing. Oh, I didn't even have seeing a Rune Rex. Yeah, so that's really unfortunate. I opted to stack 1 battlefield really high. Normally, you'd want to split your might against battle so that your opponent has difficulties getting over both. But because of the Star Spring, I have a chance to get to both. Also, my opponent Lillia can just get a lot of might normally, so it might be correct to stack both. But all of his units basically just out one of my units anyway with 1 brutalizer anyway, so it ended up being I was in a somewhat poor position here. So I believe he just clears the battlefield with what he has because I didn't hit the good cards off of my hook. So yeah, that's the end of game 1. Yeah, so we can skip over it. That's basically what happens in game 1. And then game 2, it's the it's the windswept game, which is infamous amongst players in the Riftbound community. Leblanc turns from a very slow deck to, if they open a 2-drop, one of the most aggressive decks that is nigh unstoppable. Because the reflection tokens you play with your legend ability enter ready, and windswept Hillock gives you ganking, so you can immediately gank to the other battlefield and score your second point. And then also Lillia for this matchup plays a battlefield that indirectly helps me. It's very good for them in most matchups, but in this matchup, I can use the battlefield even better than they can in some instances because I also make temporary tokens just like they do. It's called Dusker's Lab. I can just kill my at the beginning phase, at the start of it, I can just kill my temporary units to draw a card, and it's helpful for Lillia because everything that, like, all the sprite tokens are temporary, but In LeBlanc, all my reflection tokens are temporary, along with the fact that they're also often have death nails. So I'll get even sometimes I'll even get a bonus effect off of it. Um, I don't think it ends up occurring in this match, spoilers, but it does draw me 2 cards, which are both somewhat relevant, because card advantage is always good, but yeah. So yeah, also post side, I did some sideboarding changes. You notice I switched from the yellow LeBlanc to the blue LeBlanc. The LeBlanc is very good on the web-swept battlefield because typically your turn 1 play is a 2-drop, and then you have 4 runes afterward, and you can just develop a 4-drop without paying a rune LeBlanc. Also, it has the ability that protects it from protecting the temporary units from dying at the beginning phase. So you can, in theory, stack a ton of might, and you have a very unbreakable battlefield for just the cost of just discarding a card, leading to very lopsiding games. I opt to only mulligan 1 card here. I don't remember what I mulliganed, but I had the Soaring Scout, Ash, and Mixologist. In hindsight, I think I maybe should have mulliganed the Ash. I didn't end up using it this game, but it does have a lot of utility. But it's a card you want to see typically later in the game, not necessarily early in the game against Lillia, to like prevent the final holds. Because they're typically responding to you, so it's not as good initially. But yeah, I think a few notes. I ended up siding out Harness Dragon. I didn't value the ability to kill a. I end up drawing yellow. I keep the yellow LeBlanc in the deck still because it's a great card to bring off of Mixologist revives. But yeah, yeah. So for the Harness Dragon, the theory was in my head. I don't know. Yeah, the theory in my head is that the LeBlanc tokens of temporary and die pretty often, so hitting them off of hook isn't the best. He does play like big cards like Riptide Rex, but those cards are typically not too hard for me to get over anyway, because if he's getting 6 runes, he's probably tapping out. He probably doesn't have too many things to back it up, so I don't have too much difficulty getting over it. He ends up going into both. This is a very dangerous situation for him to be in because I go to 8 runes here. If I had a what's it called, a Rift Herald in hand here, he kind of loses the game on the spot because Ruined Rex is just such a powerful card. I go to 8 runes immediately. It's a sweet spot for this deck, but he kind of needs to score both points every turn to keep up with me. Otherwise, he's going to lose. Because right now he's like even behind on points against LeBlanc, which is bad. But yeah, you don't want to ever be behind on points against LeBlanc because LeBlanc's an inevitable deck that will one of the best decks in the game late game. And if you're behind against a late game deck, it's like it's hard to claw. It's basically impossible to claw back. But yeah. I don't think I end up getting the Rift Herald in my hand here, but I probably have the 3rd best option here, I would say. He has 2 up with Lillia and the Sprite on both battlefields. There are a few cards that are really good in this scenario. Besides just developing a Rift Herald and passing, if I had a Rift Herald, I would just develop and pass because pushing a LeBlanc into either of these battlefields is very risky when he has 2 cards up because any combat trick will force at least a trade. So Spoofy will force a trade, and then like On Guard and Discipline both help him speed over my unit. So it's very risky to push with LeBlanc without a card like Vi to help support it. I think I have the 3rd best option in my hand here, which is, I believe, 1010 Watcher. Ash wouldn't be terrible here because I can potentially rip the combat trick out of his hand. But if he has multiple, then I'm in a kind of a poor spot. And also, actually no, Ash would be bad because he could just respond with the combat trick, and then he would just, and I can't push over it. But I guess I would get to the other battlefield. But yeah, Ash is a little weaker here. Watcher basically makes a guarantee I pushed over no matter how much, whatever what tricks he has in hand. So I end up going with that. Accelerated Watcher. It's very safe. LeBlanc also has back line, so he can't, if he plays any pump spells to try to trade with LeBlanc, it won't work because backline says that you target the other unit first. So it's very safe to push with both here. Yeah. And you want to push with both so you can maintain control of Windswept Hillock. LeBlanc on Windswept Hillock is it's a little different from like playing like if you control it, you can just make a copy of it, whatever your highest might unit is on a battlefield at the battlefield, and then immediately gank over to the other battlefield. So you're basically kind of maintaining control of both battlefields at the same time by having stacking everything at Windswept. And there's not too many cards. Sorry, my mic cut out for a bit, but we'll resume where we left off. Yeah, so here I have to make a copy of Thousand Head Watcher. There's an argument to make a copy of LeBlanc. I at least thought about it, but so if I wanted to keep both, making a copy of the LeBlanc allows me to maintain control of allows me to stack might at the battlefield and plays around charming my LeBlanc out and me losing the copy. But I ended up just making a copy of Thousand Head Watcher so I can gank over it with relative ease. Because it's 7-3 and he has to play a lot of tricks to even win that. And even if he does, he doesn't get the hold, so it's like not very good. And the bonus effect is that when that temporary unit dies at the begin phase, I get to draw a card. So it's just the highest EV play, for sure. So he ends up playing Ruined Rex, which kills, or Riptide Rex to kill my LeBlanc. And as I said, if I had to make a copy of LeBlanc, I would be able to continue making stacking infinite might. But I'm in a good position enough already that I just wanted to get both points and keep drawing cards. So he's very behind in tempo because I'm about to go to 5 points, and then I'm gonna make a copy in my begin step or before I hold to make a copy of the Watcher and just gank over again to get another point. So I immediately go to 6. So I'm outpacing the aggro deck as a late game ability deck. So there's really not much he can do. I'm thinking of what I'm discarding here. So you have Mixologist, Ruined Rex, Hidden Blade, and Ash. I don't want to discard Mixologist because I have a Karthus I have a yellow LeBlanc in discard. So that's a card I want to bring back. And Ruined Rex is a card that I typically want if I want to come back into the game. It's not bad, but out of the choices I had, I thought it was the worst possible card. So I just end up going to the Dusk Rose, score my 6th point, and yeah, well, my LeBlanc should be tapped, but yeah, just score my 6 points, and then moving my Watcher back for safety because I learned my lesson from last game. There's no reason to hold this battlefield because he has a 6 might unit. He can easily run over my dude. I don't have much defense. I'm much better as an attacker. On defense, I'm not bad, but it's more for it's more because I can just stack a ton of might rather than me having a lot of tricks to keep them alive. Because the only trick I have is Hidden Blade and Death Grip in some matchups. But yeah, but not this one. So yeah, I believe I just develop a Mixologist in past turn. Because I think I might have drawn a Vi for turn or something. There's an argument to play Ash, honestly. I don't even think, Ash might honestly even be a bit better to look at his hand to get rid of any possible. I think honestly I should just played Ash there. It's a better play than a Mixologist because I get to get rid of his cards in hand. I can look at anything potential cards he has to clap back on defense. His only hope here is to just stack a bunch of might on the battlefield with the Ruined Rex because there's no point in getting over the fake Watcher's battlefield because, well, I guess there is a point it would deny me a draw, but he has to invest some cards to get over it where he could keep those cards to play for a hold. So I believe he just opts to play a Radiant Mood Student and hold up 5 runes for tricks on my turn. to help for defense. So I will, yeah, untap. I would kill my thing to get the draw, extra draw, channel 2 and draw. So I have 2 extra cards this turn. And I think it over a bit. I think I end up drawing into Vi, and that ends up beating anything he has. Because I have 12 might to his 8 right now, and um, the Lillia deck doesn't have that many tricks they can really play on you because he's only at 3 points. So even if I don't break his hold right this turn, like I still have a lot of turns to come back. So he's in a very bad spot. He has to hold pray. He can't break his hold this turn, and I don't do anything for like the next 2 turns. So it's looking pretty dire for him, which is kind of the normal. This is kind of how these matches go when you're on Windswept as Leblanc into a non-purple deck. It's generally just, it's generally just 2, 4, 6, 8. You become an aggro deck, which is kind of interesting. Table. So I'm just counting runes, thinking it over my head. The only thing I think that could help, I have Vi in hand. The only thing that could help here is maybe a Janna plus a on guard. Maybe I guess that puts what? Because I could push my Watcher back, and then his student would be at like 6 might, I believe, or no 5 might. Yeah, 5. So 5, 3, 6. 5 plus 3 plus 6 is 8 plus 4, so it's 14, and that would be over. And because my Watcher would be back, it would be 10 to 10 to. So, but I would get a stun. I'd get kill over his dude. I don't even think all my units would die. So if some of my units would lie, I'll just run him over the next turn. So he's gonna, that would save him the turn, and he'd get to like 5 points. But I have Vi in my hand. I have Ash. I have so many things I can do the next turn. Whatever unit he pushed back with Deanna would also come in. He could charm some of it, maybe to remove it, but like he's just in a bad spot because he's a few turns behind. But yeah, game 3. I go back to my what's it called? My yellow LeBlanc. The blue LeBlanc is typically only good for the Windswept game. It's not. You can consider it in against some purple decks if you don't want to pay too much power cost. But I opt against it. As you can see, I sided out all the Harness Dragons. I also sided my yeah. I don't remember what that card was. I think maybe it was a Vi. I think I took 1 Vi out because of I was going first. Probably. Oh, maybe it was no. Yeah, it might have been Vi because I was going first. It's probably incorrect. Vi is just really good in this matchup. No, I don't know. It definitely wasn't Vi. It might have been like a ruined. No, I don't remember what I sided out honestly. Oh, it was Dignitary. There you go. Yeah, because you side out 1 Dignitary when you put your LeBlanc in your real LeBlanc in your main deck. So that was what I put back in for going second because Dignitary is the best card you can play going second. But going first, you have the way to turn and play it, so it's not as good. So yeah, game 3 is a classic part of the meta we've seen nowadays. A lot of aggro decks, all aggro decks or fast decks are playing Arena's Greatest as they're going first battlefield, and all slower or not even slow decks necessarily, like even like mid-rangey decks are now kind of moving towards playing Aspirin's Climb to counter it. So instead of playing a 7-point game, we are now back to playing an 8-point game. And yeah. There's a lot of talk about amongst the community about these 2 battlefields getting banned because they're kind of ubiquitous amongst a lot of the popular decks, but we'll see. If this Aspirin's Climb does get removed, I would probably honestly play Duskrow's Lab, but it also depends on what battlefields we see for Vendetta in the upcoming set. So yeah. Yes, this is game 3. He misses a unit on 2-drop. He ends up just playing a mask. I do not miss my 3-drop. You don't really want to play LeBlanc first turn because you deramp yourself. But I ended up getting the best card, which is the Dignitary, and along with the best card to ramp into, which is the Rift Herald. You can see on stream we're like doing a bit of a smack talk because we know each other. We've seen each other at every event, so we've been kind of exchanging jabs at each other at every event. So I'm in a good spot here because he hasn't scored a point, and it's been like 2 turns, so that's a good start for me. I get the fact that I get to score a point before him as the slower deck is always a great sign. So the Master Restrict was not the ideal opener for him. Ideally he'd see something like a Stalwart Poro or a Rare Loot Student. So here I have 5 runes. I have a Dignitary. I believe I have a Soaring Scout in hand, and so there's an option to just play like LeBlanc and Soaring Scout, push your Dignitary in the battlefield to develop stuff. That's not terrible. It's efficient use of all your runes. However, because he has Master Restrict, the mites on my units are relatively low, so it's very hard for me to push through a battlefield with that. So I end up discarding the Soaring Scout and playing my Mixologist here, because I'm at 5 runes, and my goal is to get to 8 runes, right? And normally I go to 7, and if I play Mixologist, I go to 4, or I go down to 4, which allows me to go to 6 the next turn. But I have 2 Dignitaries, and Dignitary channels me every time it dies, so I want to force him to like either make a decision here. By placing it in a battlefield, he has to invest a lot of cards to break it, and then by forcing him to play a lot of cards to break it, he loses cards for next turn. And it also plays into my game plan of getting to 8 runes because I have a Rift Herald in hand. Right, so right now on the battlefield I have 9 might, and he just has Lillia and Masks of Restrict, or Masks of Foresight. Sorry, that's a Yu-Gi-Oh card. Yeah, so he has to push over 9 might with just Lillia, which is just representing 4. If I didn't put the thing on the battlefield, he could just push it over with Lillia and a pump spell, which was very, very, very low cost for him, and then he conquered the other battlefield to immediately go to 2 or 3 points, I guess, because it's Arena's greatest game. So that's something I wanted to avoid. I want to force him to use cards to beat me. So yeah, so he ends up pushing Lillia to the other battlefield and playing a Sprite Fountain. This puts him, so he drew that late. This also reduces the cost of the second token he plays off the Lillia Legend, so now he has 2, and he plays his last Mask of Foresight. This makes that so that every strike token comes in at 5. And it ends up working out. I discarded a Soaring Scout because I have 4 might currently, and his last sprite token is a 5 might unit, and I have 4 might there, so I can play my Soaring Scout to the battlefield at 5, and then I would just trade. If he pushes it in, it would trade. And then I would just get like 3 runes. And he doesn't get a point. So is that we still both be end the turn both at 2 points, which is a good spot for me. So I channel 3 runes there. So right now I'm at 9 runes because I got additional rune from the third one. For the third rune channel unit, I slammed down. It's a pretty simple turn. I just slammed down the Rift Herald because that is the best card I can play, and I just passed turn. It's not much for me to do there. The only Rift Herald is very powerful because it just generates so much advantage when it moves. I get to when it moves, I get to look at the top 3 cards into a battlefield. When it moves into the battlefield, I get to look at the top 3 cards of my deck and add a unit to my hand. And when it dies, I can play a unit from my hand for free. Or I had to pay the power costs, which if you see later on in the match, I actually forget to do for the Watcher, and it didn't end up mattering. But it was a mistake on my part, and I apologize for that. But yeah, this card just generates a ton of advantage. And if you're not playing a purple deck, it's very difficult for most decks to out without getting lucky with like what I have in hand or like yeah. Purple has a card called Starcross, which allows them to bounce at the hand, which is like which is the best way to out it because you don't get the death hell trigger. And the only answer I have to that is sacrifice to force myself to kill it, which is still not great, but it's better than getting nothing. So yeah. So here he's gonna develop a sprite. He's go to get his 4th point, develop a Star Poro. He has 6 might at the battlefield and then 3 might there because he moves Lillia back. Or I guess 5 might at the battlefield because of the masks. So he ends up he ends up trying to out my Rift Herald. The only way he can kill it, I guess he could singularity and then stupefy, which is not. I'm not sure if singularity forces you to have 2 targets, but I guess you could just target. But that's not very good because it's very expensive and costs me room. And then another thing, he's like he can charm me into a battlefield. I still get my trigger, like a top 3. Watcher is good. A good card. Watcher and Vi are pretty good cards. But it really depends on what I have in hand, and I determine Watcher is slightly worse than Vi here, but because Watcher is a little more expensive, they kind of do similar things in this matchup where they allow me to push over battlefields pretty safely. But Vi is a little cheaper and leaves me with some runes up for next turn. So I take some time thinking about it, and I decide to go for the Vi because of what I have in hand. If I had no good units to play for my hand the next turn, I would definitely lock in the Watcher. But because I have a unit to play off of the Rift Herald that is pretty good and can trade well with a lot of his units, I opt to go for a Vi. So I believe I play Rune Rex, yeah. And luckily for me, because he only has 2 massive restricts, or foresights, he had my Ruin Rex immediately just runs over both sprites, and he's also tapped out, so he has no runes. So I can easily run over it. He did discipline his sprites last turn. I think if he wanted to be, I think it's a missequencing because you want to play cards that draw first. So he probably should have disciplined before he played the Stalwart Poro. Just in case, that's just a sequencing fundamental. But yeah, slight error on his end there. And the reason behind that is if you just want to play, if you're going to play the card, draw a card anyway, you want to, there is a slight possibility that the card you draw, there's always a possibility that the card you draw will change what decisions you make for the rest of the turn. So in that scenario, it's just always correct to discipline a unit, discipline before playing his last unit, even if the outcome doesn't change. So here I'll go into the battlefield, make a copy of the Ruin Rex. I discard a Soaring Scout. I'm already at a lot of runes, so I don't really need extra runes. I end up playing a Leblanc in the back. And then I have a lot of weak units in hand, so I don't have a lot of things to develop, so I just end up playing my Dignitary from my hand, I believe, and then hiding a Hidden Blade so I can refill my hand. Yeah, I don't have access to, I didn't draw any sentries or Karthuses, so I don't have a way to refill my hand very fast, so having a Hidden Blade here is very good to just, not only is it like a reactive card I can use, it also just lets me draw crew cards. So it's his turn. He has 8 runes, I believe, based on, yeah, he has 8 runes. He pushes Stalwart Poro to go to get his next point. And he plays his 3rd massive restrict, which makes all of his units very strong. And we're laughing about it. So 6 is a good number. It allows him to trade with my Ruined Rex finally. having more than one Master Strict or Master Force set usually isn't as good into a deck like LeBlanc because I play a lot of big units, so the stats, the like stat change, having more than +1 on each token isn't relevant. But having all three allows him to trade with the Rex, which is pretty good. But the fact that he has to use his LeBlanc Legend ability to do it, which is 4, or Lillia Legend ability, which is 4 energy, because he doesn't have any other temporaries, is very expensive. I guess he could have pushed the Lillia into it. That'll probably make it 3, but I mean, he definitely maybe he doesn't want to do that because he wants to keep his Lilias alive. Um, but he should know that the only card I have hidden is Hidden Blade, so yeah. He disciplines to keep his Lillia alive because he wants to keep it up, but I ended up Hidden Blading my thing to kill it anyway as a response to discipline because he's out of cards. So yeah. I get to draw 2, and I end up my guy's gonna die anyway, so I might as well kill his Lillia while also getting 2 cards. And I'll draw for turn. His Stalwart Poro is kind of a menace here. It has shield, so whenever I attack into it, it gets +1. So normally it'd be 3 on defense. But because he has 3 massive restricts, he is actually, I believe, 6 on defense, which is kind of a threat. I do attack for 7 with both, because both LeBlanc and Dignitary have Assault. So I could get over without losing any cards, but I kind of want to score on both battlefields this turn. I don't want any of my units to die. So I didn't really want to do that. So I think, but luckily I have a Vi in my hand, which is why Vi ended up being more powerful than if I had a Watcher instead. It'd be a little bit wasteful because the masks triggers happens during the battle step, so I would lose 1 might from doing it. So LeBlanc ended up being a lot better here. Or not LeBlanc, a Vi. Because it allows me to trade, kill it without losing anything. Yeah, in my hand I have, I believe, I saw Ash, I saw Rift, or a Hook, and I think was last side of Rift Herald. I don't remember. I think it's Rift Herald. I ended up discarding Ash. I felt like I didn't need the card this turn. I wanted it later, and Rift Herald is just too good of a card to discard. So I ended up not. So I opted to discard the Ash because I would prefer to see the Ash off of other sources like a Hook or something. And I Ash into my other. If I hook into another Ash here, would be pretty good. I hook off my Vi. There are a lot of good hits here. Ruin Rex is one of them. Mixologist is always good. And then, yeah, Ruin Rex and Mixologist are the best hits here, and Ash is also very good. And sideboard 2 Ashes. And because Lillia is you sideboard Ash when you're playing against a deck that cannot hold very well, which is very much Lillia, because Lillia doesn't have a lot of tools for holding. And I'm saying that I want to play this Ruin Rex. I'm just deciding on which play split. I think it was that and Sentry the only hits, so it was very obvious that I was going to take the Ruin Rex. And here I'm deciding on where I want to place it. I could place it onto the either battlefield or in base. In hindsight, I wanted him to force out a lot of his cards because he's at 5 points, and Lillia wants to just save double conquer and then save its last keep a lot of cards in hand for their final push on turn to get to 9 on aspirants. So I kind of wanted him to. I put the Rex there to kind of force out his stuff early. In hindsight, though, I have 8 on a battlefield. He already has to commit a lot because he has literally no units on the board. So he already has to commit a lot to even consider breaking it. So it might have been a misplay. It might have been correct to play the Ruined Rex in the back, so that way I have a guaranteed follow-up, because otherwise I just pass turn. Or I just play a unit and pass turn next turn, and I have turn developed anyway. So I think this has ended up being a little bit of an error, because especially since I have Hook, I can just, if I were to do it the other way around, I get to probably break open his battlefield with my Ruined Rex, and at least one of them, and then hook into something else that is pretty good. So, But also he could also use less resources to get rid of my battlefield and keep still maybe he has enough runes to keep up to prevent me from getting rid of my river exit. But I find that hard to believe he could do that to both battlefields. So I think it's a slight error. So overall, yeah, I probably would have kept the Ruin Rex in the back just to be safe. It's kind of similar to what I did to game one. So it might have been an error, but that was my reasoning behind it. My thought process here is that he doesn't have exactly Sprite Burst. I win the game on the spot here. But yeah, so that was my thinking process in it, right? I'm unsure of how many runes he has. I wasn't counting. Looks like either 10 or 11 based on the stack of his how small the stack of his rune pile is, but I'm unsure. He's deliberating for a bit. I'll go ahead and speed it up. He ends up playing a Strike Burst. And with that, his legend ability becomes a lot cheaper. It only costs 2, so you can play 3 sprites on the field, all with 6 might because of the massive restrict, making them very powerful. Or foresight. Gets rid of one, I get a channel rune. He plays the hard Dark Ice. This will give one of his sprites up to 9, which is a ton of might. He could kill Ruined Rex and LeBlanc for exactly 9 might, but that's kind of a throw because my Ruined Rex will then shoot down his last sprite, so he's going to kill the Vi and the LeBlanc here. And then he'll trade with the Ruined Rex. And I'll kill his last one. Oh, I can't even kill it. No, never mind. I can't kill it because it has a 6 might from the foresights that triggers. But yeah, so in this scenario, he did have to use a lot of cards in his hand to break the battlefield, and he's all tapped out. So yeah, but because he didn't conquer both, he cannot win that turn. So it ended up being, yeah, I think it ended up being a reasonable decision. Yeah, he only goes to 6, right? So now he can't win next turn. He can only go to 8. So I just developed my Rift Herald because I had that in hand and a pass turn. So there's an argument of both. I had to think about it a bit more, whether or not it was correct or not, to put the Rex there. I'll slide back down to normal speed. He plays a second Sprite Burst. This is so he can get a hold on both battlefields and also get as much might as possible. I assume if he had a Sprite bound, he would have played that instead of the Sprite Burst because you want to keep the Sprite Burst for your turn to break the battlefield, but he didn't have another way to generate 2 tokens that are both ready, so he really wanted to get to 8. Depending on his hand, there's an argument he could just wait and go to like just go to 7 and just hold the Sprite Burst for the next turn. But he ideally wants to force me to do something to get his River Turtle into the battlefield. So he has 4 runes up, and I have just Rift Herald. And I believe need 2 cards in hand. So they're both 6 might. I failed to realize that both battlefields are at 6 might. Honestly, maybe I should have considered going to the other battlefield. This is a very risky play because if any pumps, my Rift Herald is just dead. But like it was that anyway. So maybe if he had on guard, it might have been correct to go to the other battlefield because that way I trade at least. So I think this is a bit of an inaccurate play. I should have probably just went to the other battlefield to get the. Or I guess my head I was thinking if I got Vi, it would have been better to go to this battlefield than to this one. But if I think it's probably just correct to go to the other battlefield. Um, but yeah, he ends up not having a pump here, which is really good. And I had a Watcher. And now I have 4 cards in hand. I discard the useless Sword and Scout because late enough I don't need any runes. Make a copy, and I have Hook. My Rift Herald. And I initially slammed down the Watcher here. And then because and I want to go to the other battlefield to clear his units. But because this is Watcher's public information, it was added to my hand Rift Herald. I realized this is an error, and I'm allowed to take it back because I could just play it for much cheaper with the Hook, right? Because I can just cook the Death Now will allow me to play a card from hand, and you can still accelerate it. You can still accelerate it. So see another Watcher. I had one Watcher at the beginning of my turn, beginning of the game when I put it to back bottom. So those are I've seen all 3 of my Watchers basically. And one of them is at the bottom. But my 5th card is Ash, and Ash is an incredible pull here because he has only 2 cards in hand, and this allows me to get rid of any trick he could possibly have. And he ends up very interesting. So I think because I hit Watcher off of the first Ripped Herald, he opted to not make this play. But if he didn't see me have exactly Watcher or Watcher, I think he would have played the Janna to the other battlefield to push my Rift Herald off. But because I hit the Watcher, playing Janna there will just let me push the Watcher, and then I just run over the Janna anyway, and then I make a copy anyway, Hook again, so it's the same result. So it ended up being, so that's why he ended up not playing the Watcher, Janna, I think, from my perspective. So luckily I saw the correct line with the Hook instead on the reflection token. Here I'm supposed to pay an additional rune for like the cost of the card as a power, so I should have floated another rune, and that's a mistake on my part. I apologize for that. Oh yeah, I have a Vi in hand, so I'm actually okay. My cards in hand here are Vi and Hidden Blade. So I go to 7 points here, and I think time is called here exactly on this turn. So this changes a lot about what we were gonna play. So because that was turn 0 for me, I only get one more turn before the game is over. So I'm at 7 points, and he's at 8 points, and we playing to 9 points, right? So I only have one more turn to win the game, and that you take that into consideration when I make this the plays in the next turn. If I were playing to 9 normally, I think like without turns, I'm in a very safe position here because I have a lot of stuff. He only has 1 card in hand, a top deck, right? And his Rex is dead, like is banished from my Ash. So, and all he has is Janna and Hard Dark Guys. He can definitely probably take over one battlefield pretty easily and get a draw, but I am in a somewhat safe spot here because he has some advantages because he always generates a sprite. He can reliably get one battlefield, probably a turn, but getting both is kind of hard when he's low on the cards. He has to top deck his way out of it. And I left all my runes up. I play a Vi on defense. It doesn't get the stun, but it's an extra might. So the Janna is pushing in for 9. So I put the Vi on defense to make sure that he can't get the point and get another card. He just ends up playing another sprite because he has fucking triple Mask of Foresight. This ends up being 6, so he gets to run over my Vi, and then this is a very pivotal turn. So there's a big fork here, and I'm thinking a lot on this turn. And I have Hidden Blade. It's the only card left in my hand, and there's a lot of things I can make if I. A lot of decisions I could do here. If I played, I could Hidden Blade his sprite, and that would deny him the conquer. and I was looking at his grave to check like what sprite generators he has in his discard. If he draws, he has enough runes to play both Sprite Fountain and Sprite Burst. So if he draws an either of those, he can guarantee basically a tie. Because he'll get rid of my Vi, and I already know where all my Watchers are. So I know I cannot get to the other battlefield with Watcher because they're all at the bottom of my deck. So yeah. So me hidden blading his Sprite token will probably guarantee a tie, which is like an okay result to the match. I can hit it by my own Vi, which will also get me more cards, dig towards my Watchers and stuff. But because I know that my Watchers are in the bottom of the deck, I think that I won't find a Watcher, so I can't get to the other battlefield normally with hitting by my own Vi. So those are the two options you would think normally. However, there's a third option that is like a super psycho. I admit, a super psycho high roll option, and that is hidden blading my own Rift Herald. It's insanely risky. He's on a top deck, right? A roar. So hitting with my own Rift Herald, I have no cards in hand, but hidden blade draws me 2 cards, so I can hit 2 cards off of the hidden blade. That I draw. And if one of them is Harness Dragon, I kill his Sprite and I win the game on the spot. However, I did side out, as I mentioned earlier, I did side out Harness Dragon in this matchup because I feel like normally killing the Sprites like is not very relevant in this matchup, so I didn't end up having them in my deck. But that would have been insane. So I play Hidden Blade on my own Rift Herald because I want to get a unit in my base because Rift Herald will play the unit to my base. So I'll Hidden Blade that. I'll draw 2, and that way I have a way to contest the battlefield of just Sprites next turn with 2 cards. I end up drawing a Rift Herald, which is probably one of the best units I could draw. Considering the fact that Harness Dragon is not in my deck. So he ends up getting a draw. He has 2 cards in hand now, and if either of them are a way to generate Sprite token, I lose the game on the spot because now the battlefield with Ash is very weak. He ends up stupefying to find a way to do it, and he doesn't end up finding it. I believe he has 6 runes left. Yeah, 6 runes left. So he ends up playing his Riptide Rex for a hold. And he kills my Ash. So now, yeah, so he's at 8 points, I'm at 7 points, and I'm staring down, and I'm on turn now 2 of the in time, and I don't get another turn, so I have to win the game on this turn, or else the game is over, or else it's a tie. And I end up drawing Vi, which is probably one of the best possible top decks here, because Vi will allow my Rift Herald to run over that battlefield for free because he has no runes up. I get 3 cards to dig here. They don't really matter what I hit. I guess the best card to hit would be like a Watcher, but we already know where the Watchers are. They're kind of near the bottom of my deck. So yeah, I just take a random unit, whatever. It doesn't really matter. I just need to discard something. Discard. And I'll play a Vi to stun his thing. His Rune Rex, nothing dies here, so it's whatever. I make a copy. None of this matters really because I could just kill my own Rune Rex, but it's still like the correct play if I were like playing normally. So I could discard Karthus or Mixologist here. They both don't matter because they will not let me win the game this turn. So I know where Watcher's at the bottom of the deck, so I have to hit Watcher here, and yeah, I mean. So we both know that what the result was in the game. Another how I had to win the game on my turn, I guess, was Mirror Image, which I did not necessarily consider because it's not as consistent with Hook. So I didn't value that as highly. So I went for this play instead. And GhaelWinds asked, so we both know how like the only way I can win this was Watcher, right? So he asked me to if I wanted to flip everything face up just to see just for fun to see if I hit it, and I agreed because this is the last turn of the game. We're on stream for the fans. It's very entertaining. So I flip the top 3 cards. I don't see any units, and the 4th card, there it is. It's Cinema. I hit the Watcher, and I have enough runes to play it, and that's game. Because I accelerated it, and I just go to the battlefield and go to 9 points. And that's how I ended up winning my on-stream feature match. Yeah. So thank you all for watching. It's a very very long video. Let me know if you would like to see more videos like this. Yeah. I'll post all of my. I'll post a link to the stream so you can watch the commentator's perspective if you would like to see something like that. Also, if you're interested in more of my other matchups and how I am doing, I can talk more about those as well. So yeah, signing off.